What is up, everyone else? Continuing in this Dasha Chalana sequence, today we have the neck and the shoulder girdle. So it might actually be most useful is starting with the shoulders and then coming back up and doing some of these neck routines. There is an intrinsic relationship between our shoulders and our neck. All of the muscles that go up into the neck and then around the head start here in the shoulder blades. So if the shoulder blades function well, then tension sometimes alleviates in the neck and also in the head. And so if you're one of those people where there's a lot going on in your neck consistently, what can sometimes be useful is working through the shoulders. Now, the whole body is a complex unit which has redundant systems, so that way if movement isn't happening in one area, another area can sometimes come in and help. This is called compensation. And if you've done some of these shoulder things before and neck things before, the problem could be elsewhere, like in your hips. I worked with a runner a little while ago who kept having neck pain. And when they worked through their hips and we helped their leg bones to move in their pelvis a little bit better, shoulders got easy, neck got easy, migraines went away. So there's all kinds of weirdness in the body. So just kind of have that global perspective as you're going through these movements, because sometimes the where the pain is not the problem, as my teacher says. And so in the Dasha Chalana, we made this head roll movement, and there's a couple of different ways we can do it. I often invite people to do a small head roll as if you're tracing a circle on the wall with your nose. So that way the gaze stays forward and the head doesn't tilt up towards the ceiling or down. Always make sure that you go slowly enough so that you don't get dizzy. But then there's also a larger head roll where you make big motion, where the nose goes up towards the ceiling and then down towards the ground. And sometimes that can feel really nice on its own, and you may not need to do anything else other than that. But again, if you notice that your neck is particularly stiff, start with the shoulder video and then come back and revisit this one. One of the movements that I think is useful to make, especially if we're trying to open up through the neck, and sometimes by extension the rest of the face, is just turning the head over to one side and then letting yourself nod up and down. You might notice a little bit of a pulling on the opposite side. And you always want to move in a range of motion that's comfortable. Right? If there's any big moments of pain, if there's sharp jabbing, stop. Don't do that. Right? Anything that we do from my perspective in relationship to yoga, well, not just my perspective, Patanjali's as well, is that movement should be steady and sweet. And so when we tune into that sweetness and that steadiness, when we let things be simple, the rest of our lives become simple. So if you were joining in with me on that, let the head roll the other way, and then just let the head rock up and down this side. Just noticing what you notice. Sometimes as the head moves down, you might notice the shoulder wanting to pull up. Can you move in a range of motion where it's just the head moving? Right? While it's useful that the body compensates, sometimes the body relies on compensation, and that no longer becomes useful. It's like asking to be picked up instead of learning how to walk. But sometimes it's important to be carried. So just letting yourself tune into what do you need at this moment in time. When all that feels complete to you, let the head return to a neutral position. Take a deep breath in, just because we haven't done that yet. And then exhale with a big sigh. Just notice how everything feels. Maybe rolling through the shoulders just a little bit. Maybe a little bit of shimmy. Yeah, I just had a bunch of tea, so feeling a little frivolous. Another movement that we can do, which can be quite useful, is just looking up towards the ceiling. Just gazing up. And then let the chin move down towards the chest. You might feel this between the shoulder blades. You might feel this on the back of the neck. But just going back and forth here. Just going up and down. Always picking what's going to be useful to you. If there's any of these movements that don't feel right, stop. Don't do that. Always, always, always follow the intuition of your body. Smaller ranges of motion are often quite useful. When all that feels complete to you, let yourself rest, taking a deep breath in once more. And then exhale with a big sigh. And we're going to combine those movements. Right, so we're going to let the head traction over towards one side. And then we're going to gaze down towards whatever shoulder we've looked over. And then we're going to gaze up over the opposite shoulder. So up towards the opposite ceiling. And then bring that gaze down to that shoulder. And then we're going to cut across the midline of the body as we look up over the shoulder that we started with. And then down, up over the opposite shoulder, and then down. Just let yourself move here. I prefer and strongly recommend that you go slowly. Dizziness is not something that is useful as we get older. You may disagree. You may want to go as fast as you like. Again, I don't recommend it, but live your life. And again, just noticing if those shoulders want to lift up as you move the head around. And can you just move in a range of motion where there's no extra motion from the shoulders? And then when all of that feels complete to you, when you feel sufficiently rolled out of the head, let yourself return to neutral, taking a deep breath into the nose. Exhale with a big sigh. Notice how you feel. Maybe coming back into those initial head rolls, trying that small head roll, right, as if you're tracing that circle on the wall with your nose. Notice if there's any differences now than whenever you did it before. Maybe let yourself go the opposite way. If you were playing with that larger head roll, feel free to do that. A large head roll is going to target the sides of the neck more. That smaller head roll is going to target more of that suboccipital ridge, that base of the skull, top of the neck. And so when all of that feels complete, let yourself rest. Deep breath in once more. Exhale with a big sigh. And as always, feel free to check out that Dasha Chalana video. Check out the shoulder video, especially if you've got some neck stuff going on. And feel free to leave any questions that you have down in the comments section. Thank you all so much, and may you have happy, healthy necks.